Hi, my name is Nick Munn, and this is my presentation as part of the Master's course Issues in Education, and it's entitled Technology in Education. So we'll get started. So you can see right away I'm using a little bit of technology as part of my presentation. Some of you would have used these, some of you maybe not. This is a Prezi. So we'll get going. As mentioned, the title is Technology in Education. And a few things I wanted to highlight. There's all kinds of different ways that technologies are being used in education. And part of what I want to get at is the technology helpful, or are we using it just for the sake of using technology? Does it reduce your workload? Does it make you a more effective teacher? Are students learning better because of it? So a couple of things here. Smartboards. I'm using a smartboard. These are things that can be used very effectively, or they can be used as a glorified chalkboard or just a projection screen. So it's one of these tools that a lot of teachers have now gone to them, and a lot of classrooms now have them. Every classroom in this building has one. But are we actually using it effectively? Is it enhancing our teaching? Is it increasing or decreasing teacher workload? Now I find it personally reduces my workload just because if I teach a course more than once, I've got my content already set up on a smartboard file. I don't have to recreate my content. Or if you went back to the days of, say, the chalkboard, I'm not going to be rewriting all the questions over and over and over again. It reduces workload. Does it make me a more effective teacher because of that? Maybe not, other than the fact that I have more time to work on actual delivery of the content. And here's another good one that I like to mention is Centios. Some teachers will use them, and I think they're a great device. And one of the things I think they're great for in reducing teacher workload is you can use it for such things as multiple choice. And if you give a multiple choice test, well, as soon as the kids are done, they enter their multiple choice answers into the Centio. This then gets wirelessly sent to your laptop, and it automatically marks everything for you. If you so choose, you can give the marks immediately back to the students and they can see what they got on the test. Now that would help reduce my workload, but it wouldn't really help my students because they've already finished their content. The mark is what the mark is. A more effective use I find for them is for formative assessment. So both for them and for me. So they get a mark back right away. I'm not counting it for or against them, and they can see, yes, I did really know that, or no, I guess I didn't really know that. And me as a teacher, as soon as I click the end button over there to finish my formative assessment, I get an immediate feedback of how my class did on average. So I can say, yeah, they really got it, or they really struggled, I better find another approach or teach that over again. Or even I can go in and say, okay, well, almost everybody got it, but these 3 or 4 people, maybe they're shy and don't want to say that they didn't get it. Well, I can see right away that these are the 3 or 4 people that didn't get it. So depending on how you use them, it can be a really effective tool, or it can be just something that reduces teacher workload but doesn't help the students that much. And I think the formative use of them is the better use that I find. And then we've got a couple other things here that I have up. Edmodo is an online site for delivery of content. And then similar to that we use in our own school is something called Edline. This is something where students can log on. They have their own password, and parents also have their own password to this site. And our students are using it a lot for seeing their marks, and parents for the same thing. So they can go on there and see where they stand in each of their courses, and their parents who have a separate username and login can do that. It has a lot of capabilities beyond that as well. Such things as notes can be added up there. Tests can be uploaded as in a calendar event, so students and parents can see that a test is coming up. You can upload notes. You can upload your PowerPoints and things like that. Whether that, to me, is great for the students, as in it can keep them up to date, and it's convenient if you're a course that has a lot of notes. But from the administrative end, this is one that I find is a lot of work for me, and administratively, this has brought on more of a workload than what I would have had without Edline. Now, it is good for the students and the parents that they are up to date with their marks, but overall, a lot of work. And then the final one I'm going to look at, and I'm going to look at a couple of examples here, is online content. And that's where you can use the internet and the power of the internet to provide online content for students. And this is where I'm going to be going with my presentation, where I think we can really use the power of online content to more effectively deliver the curriculum. Okay, so here's a couple of examples. One is Khan Academy. Now, I think most teachers are familiar with that by now. This gentleman, Khan, he was backed by Bill Gates, and Bill Gates saw what he was doing and put a lot of money behind it. And if you go onto his site, no matter what the high school subject, he's just about covered every high school subject there is with these little online videos. So you can go on at any time and get this content. It's available all the time, and you can refresh your memory or say, I didn't get this. It's all there. He even has up to university level things and stuff that goes beyond high school education. Okay? And this is fairly new, this massive open online courses, or as they're called, MOOCs. Okay? This is online courses, entire courses. So think on the university level, if you want to learn something. The example I'm giving here at the bottom is Stanford has their first year introductory computer science course called CS50, completely available online. So all of their lectures, all the way through the course, are available online, and you can watch them. If you've got an iPod or an iPhone, there's a thing called iUniversity now. You can go on and search that up, as well as many other courses. And this is the one I focused in on because I've started to take this myself just out of interest. Okay? And not only do they make the lectures available, they also make all of the notes available, and they make the assignments available. And so you can go through the course just as if you were a student sitting in that classroom in Stanford. Now, the obvious question is, how do you get assessed? You can't really. But what you can do is tell whether you are doing things right. They've got open forums where you can post, say, your assignment solution to something, and other students within the course can get back to you and say, this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong, this is how you can improve. So it feeds off of other students that maybe are excelling or found something great. And so you can actually get feedback on anything that you've done as an assignment. So I think this is kind of where some of our future is going. There's great power I see in this, and the universities are seeing this as well. So a couple of questions that come out of this, and these are, has it increased or decreased your workload as a teacher? So the technology that has come into your classroom or has come into your school, is it helping to decrease that workload, or is it just adding to the workload? And maybe more importantly, is it making your instruction more effective? Are you able to more effectively deliver the curriculum? Are the students getting it better now? Okay, so, and this is the big topic that I'm going to delve into, is how can we leverage the technology capabilities with good, sound instructional practices or pedagogy to more effectively teach children? Okay, so the last couple of things here is how can we leverage the built-in technology-savvy students to better educate them? And how can we merge sound pedagogical techniques with technology to make it even stronger? So I think that's the bigger one for me right here, is if you take something you already know is a good, sound pedagogical approach, can we use technology to enhance it? Right? And we're going to take advantage of that, the tech-savvy capability of students. What I find interesting is by tech savvy, and I'll mention this later, they're really great at things like Facebook, and they can send out tweets, and they're very good with social media. But what I found interesting is maybe some of the employability skills that we think of, like familiarity with Microsoft Word, or the ability to use Microsoft Excel, less so. So they're very tech savvy, but some of the technology skills that employees or employers are looking for, maybe not as much. So just to kind of use another medium here, let's go to the good old smartboard. Okay. And the technique that I wanted to focus in on is direct instruction. It's the one that I like to favor within my own classroom. And so this is the one I want to focus in and say, can I take this technique and make it better through technology? Okay, so the instructivist approach was one of the big things within it is direct instruction. Really the father of direct instruction was Siegfried Engelmann. He came up with the methodology behind it and did much of the testing behind it. Okay? And there's the definition, or his own definition of direct instruction. I'll let you read it. We'll elaborate more on it as we go through. But it's a fairly straightforward approach as far as pedagogical techniques go. Okay. One of the things that we're always seem to be inundated with is new pedagogical approaches, and it seems like there's something new every year, a new what you might call flavor of the month quite often, and the research might not be as thorough as what you might like. It might, because it's new, the research might not be as thorough. Well, direct instruction, who Siegfried came up with back in the 60s, went through a very extensive research and might be the most researched pedagogical method out there. It was researched in a project called Follow Through, and this was a study that was conducted by the U.S. Department of Education and Stanford, and you can see here, went on for nearly 30 years and tracked 75,000 students, and it compared direct instruction to 12 other models of instruction, both instructivist and constructivist approaches. So the constructivists were more student-centered, and the student discovering their learning. And the results were quite amazing with this study. You can see some of the models up here that it was compared to, as well as control schools, where there were no specific model being tested at these control schools. And the study showed that direct instruction was superior to all of the control schools and every other model that was tested. And so this was across all models, across all years, across all schools that were tested. And so kind of a ringing endorsement of direct instruction. And it says here the schools were compared based on fostering math and reading skills, higher order cognitive and conceptual skills, and self-esteem as well. So not only were the students doing well, as a result their self-esteem was risen as well, and perhaps undervalued this one right here. The other thing that was found in this Project Follow-Through study is that struggling students, those that were behind grade in learning, behind grade in math, were able to use direct instruction method and catch themselves up. Okay, so a question, what does direct instruction look like in the classroom? A lot of people might think it's a chalk and talk approach, which it really isn't, and that's only a small portion of it. The older version under Engelmann's attempted to control every variable within the teaching environment, and the teaching was very scripted. This is what the topic is, this is what you tell the kids, and then this is what you give them to try. And there was very little room for the teacher to use their own talents or maybe their own approach to something. That's less so now. It's more focused on good curriculum and effective delivery of that curriculum. And what they do is they take the curriculum and break it up into small chunks. And we might call them units, and then they'll take that and break it up into even smaller chunks. And they'll tell the students, okay, here's what I'm going to teach you. You teach them that knowledge. Then you model using the knowledge. Then you give them practice to practice trying out their new knowledge. And then you as a teacher go out and around and say, how are you doing? Are you finding it hard? Your duty is to go out and about amongst the students and see, are they getting it? Are they not getting it? Can I move on type thing? And so it's a very active approach by the teacher after they're done modeling the approach. Okay? So that's really what the direct instruction approach is all about. Okay? And you're going to see how I think technology can take that approach and make it even more effective. Okay, so how can we leverage the power of the technology savvy students with this sound pedagogical approach? Okay. So as I mentioned before, this seems to be the area that the students are really, really good in. So how can we translate this into better results in the classroom? Okay. And the one thing that I'm going to focus in on is, if you take the direct instruction model, in the beginning of it, where the teacher is delivering the theory and showing examples of practicing questions of using their new knowledge towards answering problems or solving problems, okay, I think the technology can be used to enhance the delivery of the actual content and free up the teacher from more of that going around and helping students individually, right, which I think is the most important part. As we were saying before, originally direct instruction was completely scripted, right? And where it's not completely scripted anymore, the actual content, if you do it really well and say tape it, and then you can make that content available to the students. Okay? So that's where I'm going with this, and it actually has a name. It's called a flipped classroom. Now, I've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years now. I wasn't aware it was called a flipped classroom until recently. I wasn't even aware that it was really a technique. Okay? What I had were students, about 4 years ago, I had a couple of students that were fairly sick, and they needed to spend a lot of time at the hospital. And they were very bright and very keen students. And I said, how can I help these students not have to spend so much of their time when they get back to school trying to get caught up? So what I did was take that scripted part of my lesson, the part where I'm up at the front teaching to the whole class, and I videotaped it. And then I made that available online through YouTube. And so now the students were coming back to me, and this worked very well for me. One particular student came back, and she was out for 3 weeks straight, and other than a few questions, was able to step right back into my classroom as if she had not missed any classroom time. She got help with me for one day, and then the very next day she was able to sit down and write the test that I gave the rest of the class earlier that week, and she also came back with all of the assignments already done. She wasn't sick in the sense that she wasn't capable of doing assignments. She was just kind of tied to the hospital. So she did all of that while she was at the hospital. Then once my students figured this out, they said, hey, well, it's coming up on midterm time or exam time, and they used the videos to catch themselves up. All right? So as I can say, you see here, I put in this bullet. This became popular with not only students that are out for illness, but kids that are out for sports, or the kids that are really involved with school that they were always missing. If it was my period 1 class, they would seem to miss that a lot to do school-related activities, and they could always catch themselves up with these online videos. Okay? So the hard part about all of this is what I speak of, this flipped classroom, hasn't really been studied because it's so new. Now, like I said, I started 4 years ago. It didn't have a name back then. The people that are named it the flipped classroom started it around the same time. And the reason they're calling it the flipped classroom is the way they were using this technology is they would say, all right, you go home, watch the videos and the instruction at home, and all of our time, class time, will be used for practice. So what they were finding is that really helped. The student didn't go home after getting the instruction at school, do an entire homework practice session completely wrong, get that embedded in their memory, and not find it until they get it marked and given back to them, and what they'd actually done was wrong. The teachers were able to actually spend their class time going around helping the students do the problems and making sure that what they learned from the lessons, the direct instruction part of the lesson, was correct. Okay? And one of the research articles that I was reading, Sukup, says that it's very important to embrace these new technologies and leverage them if you can, even if they're not peer reviewed yet, if you can use them to enhance your teaching. Okay? So I'll quickly just give you a demonstration of how I've done it. Now, I didn't completely flip my classroom just because the socioeconomic thing, a lot of my students would not have access to the internet at home, and there's the downfall of this. So I did not tell them you have to watch the video at home, right, and then come in. So when I did a survey, I did find that a surprisingly large number of my students did not have access to the internet at home. So that's the reason I chose to make laptops available to my students during school time or during class time if they wanted to use them to watch these videos, or if they wanted to at lunch hour type thing. So we'll escape out of this. And this is the way I set mine up. I did it with a Wikispace. The reason I used a Wikispace is I wanted to quickly be able to have my content available online. I didn't want to have to spend a bunch of time setting up and making a website. These Wikispaces came. The site's readily made. Linking between pages is very intuitive. You don't need to be really tech savvy to be able to do this. And literally 3 clicks gets you from nothing to a YouTube video being on your site and available. So you can see one particular section of one of my courses here. I did the entire section with videos, made them available online through this Wikispace. Right? And so the student would just have to look and see which topic did I miss, or in this particular case I actually have had set aside a week where we do this in school, and I had them sitting down with, we're lucky at the school, we have iPads, a class set of iPads. I sat them down with the iPads and said, watch it at your pace, right? And as you finish a video, you can do the related assignment. Once you hand the assignment in to me, check with me to make sure that it looks like you're getting them correct, and then you can move on to the next one. So for instance, they might start with the sign law, they would click on that, right? And so there's my YouTube video that I've uploaded teaching the sign law. So they'll watch their way through that and then attempt the assignment. And then maybe they finish that, say, all right, and hand in the assignment to me, then they move on to the next one. Say, all right, now I'm going to do the cosine law. Right, and that's there. And I've done this particular unit as well as a couple other units and other courses entirely online. And the kids do enjoy it, and I've got good success from it. Now, this should be identical to if I just stood at the front and taught it and let the students work away at it then after I finished. One of the advantages that I did find from this is the students that were a little more advanced, they could work through the material faster, and then I had more content available to them when they were done their unit, and they could move on or do some type of enrichment. And the students that had a harder time, they could take their time, they could watch the video slower, they could replay the video if there's something they didn't understand. The notes, you can see I have a boxed in area here to say this is a very important, right in your notebook. They can pause the video and take their notes, and then I tell them right in the video, watch it first so you can listen and watch how I do it, and then you can go back, pause it, and write down everything I wrote down as an example in your notes. So it has all those advantages, helps with those that struggle doing both the note-taking and the listening. So I got really good results out of this. And I believe this is how approaches like this can be used to leverage technology with sound pedagogy. So that is it. Thank you.